ahead and begin the presentation on what's new in Prism 2.1. So first, some platform updates. Our recommendations, I think they're the same from last time. .NET Framework 0.8 for the server side, Windows Server 2022 and SQL Server 2022, and Windows 11 for the client side. No longer supported from last time. Windows 7, Windows Server 2012 are no longer supported, along with SQL Server 2012, and new for this release, SQL Server 2016 is dropping support. Here's the support timeline for the Windows Server and SQL Server platforms. Like I said, we were moving off of SQL 2016. And here's the timeline for Windows itself. For now, we are continuing support for Windows 10. However, we are likely to discontinue support for it in the near future. But if you have any concerns about that, please feel free to send us an email. Moving on to all of the features for this version. The biggest feature we have is the beta release for new Prism Dashboards. This feature will allow the creation and editing and viewing of dashboard pages. And it's meant to be our first step into fully user configurable dashboards. And it's currently not meant to replace the current dashboards. We're just releasing it as a preview feature to gather feedback with a limited set of controls that will be available, and with more to be added as time goes on. So if preview features are enabled, the new dashboards button will appear right underneath the current dashboards button. With a little yellow badge to indicate its newness. And clicking on that will bring us to this dashboard page. Which can be split up into sections, which I'll cover each of. On the far left, we have the dashboards pane. At the very top is the toolbar menu. And then kind of in the interior, we have on the left the objects panel, and in the middle, the editor panel, and on the right, the properties pane. So first, I wanted to talk about all of the dashboard controls that will be available in this version. In the object pane, we have them split up into Prism-related controls, and then underneath those are more generic controls, text controls, and miscellaneous. In the Prism section, we have available the digital tag status item and the calibration item. Text-wise, we have text and label items, and miscellaneous, we have the rectangle item, the image item, and the button item. And I go through each of these. Starting with kind of the most generic text item. In order to place this on a dashboard, simply click the text icon and drag it onto the dashboard to add it. And this item is meant to display text with full control over everything background and border color and foreground and the text contained within it. This item can be driven by objects in Prism, which I'll cover later. But next to that is the label item, which is meant to be a simpler form of the text item, which will only hold static values for its background and foreground colors and text value. Going down to the bottom section, the rectangle shape is just a shape with no text and can have its background and border color set. And this is really useful for creating visual groupings or boundaries around other dashboard items. Next to that is the image item, which can be placed on a dashboard and have an image file loaded into it to display on a dashboard, and can be configured in this way. The image source, which upon clicking this update button will bring up a file dialog, the image file, and additional options to control and configure the way the image is displayed in the actual dashboard item. The button item allows placement of a clickable button on a dashboard, and it can be configured. Its text can be set, what's displayed in the actual button, and then what happens when the button is clicked. Right now, we have it to where the button will navigate to different areas in Prism, which can be selected with that drop down. And the options what we have available right now are alarms and compliance. And so the button will navigate to either of those areas when configured. Going back up to the Prism section, we have the digital tag status, which is meant to display text based on the status of a digital tag. And so to configure this one, the first drop down will have a list of all digital tags available, and then two text fields on and off that will be displayed based on the status of the selected digital tag. And then after that, the calibration item, which when added and configured with an instrument, will show the 0-cal and span-cal ranges and values. And that is all of the controls that are available in the new dashboards. Moving on to the dashboards pane that was on the far left. Up at the top, we have buttons for creating new dashboards and deleting dashboards, a view and edit toggle. Below that is a search bar to search for specific dashboards. Below that we have a folder view of different dashboards, and I'll talk about that in a second. And down at the bottom is a button to load the selected dashboard onto screen. So by default, all users can view and edit their own boards, view of the board, but only users with admin or dashboard roles can edit a public dashboard. And users with those roles can also see all private dashboards and can edit them or move them around as needed. And then moving to the, I think the last area on the far right is the properties pane. This area contains all of the settings and attributes and properties of the dashboard item that's selected in the canvas. So here we have like a search bar to find specific settings if needed. And the property list down here, the left of which is the name of the property, and on the right is the value or configuration settings. So kind of getting into configurations. Starting at the top, we have background color and border color. Values can either be when this checkbox is checked a static value, which is simply allows the selection of a single color, or if this is unchecked, it opens up the data source configuration. And so the idea behind this is that the first dropdown will allow you to select a type of item, which can be found on this table on the left. When we have alarms, tags, digital tags, reporting groups, instruments, and report parameters available as categories. After that's selected, that will enable the selection of a particular item of that type to be to drive this data source, and then the property to point at for that item is below that, and the property available can be found in this table on the right. So example, alarm, we have, is it an alarm? The tags, digital status, is a reporting group up to date? Is an instrument out of service? All kind of yes, no values that drive the off and on color for these dashboard items. Under those, we have kind of simpler things. The border thickness can control the left, up, right, down values of the border. The rotation angle is here, and underneath that, the X and Y position and width and height. Other common attributes, text related. Similar idea. It can be static text or unchecked. It will do the same data source configuration here. Again, we have alarms, tags, digital tags, reporting groups, instruments, and report parameters. And the properties for text we have available are mostly text values. Names of objects can be pulled. Analog values of tags can be displayed, etc. And so putting these all together, dynamic values are frequently updated on the dashboard so that those values can be viewed in real time. So in this image, I have two different text items, which are pulling the name of a tag and underneath the value of the tag. And the number here should be updating in this recording. Looks like it is. So that value should be up to date with the tag that it's pointed to. Moving on to the toolbar, this contains a lot of different features and tools for editing to make creating and configuring dashboards easier. Starting from the left, we have save buttons to save changes to a dashboard. In this section, there are delete, copy, and paste buttons for dashboard items. The next two are layering controls, which I'll cover in a minute. Next to that, we have alignment and distribution options. Next to that is a pointing and panning tools, and then options for snapping and options for showing rulers and grid lines and showing and hiding of the left and right panels of the dashboard. So first I'll talk about the layering controls. The first of which, when clicked on, will bring up either an option of bring to front or bring to forward. Bring to front will take a selected dashboard item and put it on the topmost layer, whereas bring forward will bring it forward by one layer, as seen in this these images down here. Similarly, the same thing but backwards. We have send to back and send backwards, one of which will send an item to the bottommost layer or a single layer downward. Next to that, we have the alignment and distribution tools. So the first one is align left. And this will do, if you have a single item selected, it will align it to the left of the dashboard. Or when having multiple items selected, it will align them to the leftmost edge of the group. Align to center, similar idea. Single item moves to the horizontal center of the dashboard. And for a selection, it will move to the center of the group. Same for right of the dashboard or right of the group. And the same idea for vertical alignment, top of the dashboard, top of the group, middle of the dashboard, middle of the group, and bottom. So using those makes it easy to take several dashboard items and have them line up nicely and easily together. After those, we have the distribute options horizontally and vertically. Distribute horizontally will take a group of dashboard items and equally space them out horizontally. And similarly, vertically will take a number of dashboard items and equally space them vertically. And so by using the alignment and distribution, it should allow the creation of nice looking dashboards to line everything up and space them out evenly. And the last toolbar option worth mentioning is the snap to items and snap to grid. When snap to items is enabled, it will, when a dashboard item is being dragged around, it will display guidelines to line up the item with a different item or the edge of the dashboard. And snap to grid will do the same thing. It will snap to the grid squares that are behind it. So that covers the new dashboard feature. And I'll move on now to the other features that are in this release. Related to licensing, we added some more descriptive error messaging so that if any minor issues are encountered when trying to load a license, they could be addressed. And some of the scenarios that we added were when the serial number had leading edge releases or otherwise did not match the value that was in the license file. And then if the license file either had no products associated with it or did not match if it didn't match the Prism product. we will now display error messages saying as much. So this is an example of where the dash serial numbers were different from the database and the license file. Now there is an error displayed. This is an example of there were no products in a license, and another example of where a license with a different product than Prism was attempted to be saved. In source administration, we made adding raw point attributes optional when adding an 8864 source. And this was for the scenario where a lot of customization was desired, and it didn't need to, we didn't need to delete all of the default values in order to get the configuration. So now on this page, a checkbox was added that's off by default. And so checking that will create the default raw point attributes. Otherwise, it will be blank. Up next, show pseudo. We added a show pseudo analogs for sources. So for raw points, we have toggles for wired analogs and pseudo analogs to be displayed. And this really was just to save time when viewing sources that only had pseudo analogs. For local sources, local sources are not able to receive values, so we've hidden the input options just to avoid confusion when they didn't mean anything. So now for local source raw points, the analog inputs and digital inputs will no longer be displayed. On sequences, retry autocal if there's a conflict on start. So this feature will reattempt an autocal if it were to fail on startup. And this was to prevent, due to any other timing conflicts with other events, that the calibration would still be able to finish. And so it reduces the risk of operating in an uncalibrated state. And so here's an example of an autocal and a blowback kind of happening at the same time. And now they should be able to coexist peacefully. We added the ability to configure the alarm threshold for the qualified data alarm. So there was a scenario that if a resource intensive operation was happening at the time the qualified data update warning alarm was to go off, it sometimes could fire erroneously. And so we added a delay that's configurable to kind of reduce the chance of this happening due to timing, or if the Prism was tied up doing something else. So this can be found in application configuration under alarm service, under the stale data alarm limit, which defaults to 900 seconds. In the same application settings, we added warning alarm for AutoCal due soon. So this gives the ability to configure a warning alarm that goes off before the 26-hour mark is hit to help to avoid going out of compliance. And again, this can be found in the application settings page under the qualifier service and can be turned on by setting the AutoCal due warning hours to be anything other than 0. In the bottle manager, it will now warn the user when a bottle is being replaced when the new components don't meet the span requirements of the current one. And the warning will allow the swap to continue unless the bottle is used as a daily span. So this is an example of the first scenario. Warning will pop up saying that the new bottle does not meet the span requirements, and then a prompt for it to proceed or cancel. And an example of when it's also used as a daily span, that option will not be given. Or starts, we will now, when an SView file is used to launch Prism, it will now be automatically added to the session manager. So once that SView file is used, it should be available in the session manager rather than having to go and find it again, just so everything is in this central location. Additionally, we added in the session setting page 2 buttons, one of which will mark the selected session as default, and the one next to it to remove the default status off of its whichever session. For downtime events, we added a field for internal notes. So these are meant to be notes and comments available to be viewed, but will not be visible in reports sent to the EPA. So here's an example of in downtime code incidents. There's a field here to enter the internal comments, and then once saved, it will appear in a column on this page. But again, this is internal and won't appear on any in the reports module. We changed the way that excess emission reports pulled the duration to fix an issue. Previously, there was a hard-coded duration of 3 hours and a unit measure of ppm. Instead, that's been changed so that now the report will pull the duration from the selected compliance parameter and show in the duration column automatically, and the unit of measure column has been removed. In the ECMPS module, we added the ability to see tests in the QA/QC editor that were completed prior to all of the changes in preparation for ECMPS 2.0. And this is only to make it visible in the QA/QC editor. All of the backend data will still be intact. And this affects reports of type 7-day cal error check, DP flow leak check, and fuel flow to load events. And so opening the QA/QC tab with any of these historic tests, they will begin to import into the QA/QC tab. And that they should appear in the appropriate report page, and they will have the imported tag in the front of their description. So here's an example of that happening in fuel flow to load. These are all historic tests that were loaded into this page, and they have the imported tag in their description. In the QA/QC editor, we added validation, just visual validation for the latest reporting instructions and JSON schema rules. From the EPA, so that everything is in compliance with the latest stuff that we have. Right, this including rules from the JSON schema, which this is an example of, and rules from the reporting instructions, such as this. And with that covers all of the features that are available in Prism 2.1. There were a lot of other bug fixes that are also in this release, which can be found in the release notes if we want. And just for time, I won't include everything here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.